Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Rose Fitzpatrick, and I will be your host for today's panel, Atlantic Women Entrepreneurs Leading the Way in Exports and International Trade. This series is one of a number of initiatives of the Atlantic Canadian Women in Growth Partnership. It's a 3-year project funded by ACOA through the Government of Canada's Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy. Our goal is to increase the participation of underrepresented groups and sectors within Atlantic Canada's entrepreneurial ecosystem. Before I introduce our panelists for today, I would like to briefly introduce you to our Atlantic project team. The project lead, our colleagues from Enloe in Newfoundland and Labrador, who are kindly behind the scenes today running our webinar, Carolyn Wakeham, so thank you. Isabelle Arsenault is the project coordinator in New Brunswick with Women in Business New Brunswick. Denise Williams is the project coordinator in Nova Scotia with the Centre for Women in Business. Thanks, Denise. And myself, I am the PEI project coordinator with the PEI Business Women's Association in Prince Edward Island. So a few housekeeping notes before we begin. Feel free to add in your business and contact information or comments in the chat room. And if you do have any questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A area or in the chat room with the name of the panelist if you have a question that you would like directed to somebody specific. And we will be monitoring the chat room as we go along. And I will leave about the last 15 minutes or so for questions from the audience. We will be recording today's session, and we will post the link on each of our respective websites following today's session. So, according to the latest stats from EDC Export Development Canada, there are close to 13,000 Canadian women-owned entrepreneurs, or companies rather, currently exporting. The number of women-owned SMEs exporting doubled from 2011 to 2017. Those are the stats that we're getting. And there was about a 250% increase in export revenue seen by women-owned enterprises over the past 10 years. So, you know, when we're talking about international trade and exporting, it really is about extending your product line and services to other markets as a means of increasing your sales, moving beyond our borders. And I think we've learned a lot, especially over the last couple of years, that there are more opportunities than ever for women in this area to grow in this area. And I know just our organizations ourselves have helped a lot of women business owners transition to online sales and marketing. So we are very fortunate today to have 4 amazing women entrepreneurs from Atlantic Canada doing just that. I'm so excited to introduce you to our panelists who are running multiple businesses from Atlantic Canada, exporting all over the world. I would like to take a few minutes to just thank them for taking the time from their busy schedules to share their stories and their insights with you here today. So briefly, I'll go around and introduce you, and then I'm going to hand things over to them. I'll start with Angele Miller, is from Coquin, New Brunswick. She is the founder of Abundant by Design and ACTIVPOP. She's the co-founder of Inca Glow, co-founder of Colipop and Creekside R&R, which is a glamping tourism destination in New Brunswick. She also runs a brokerage and distribution consulting company, helping small businesses in natural food and personal care cosmetics launch brands internationally. Caitlin Nickerson is the manager of two family businesses, Liverpool Adventure Outfitters Limited and Parlee Manufacturing Company Limited in Nova Scotia. Welcome, Caitlin. Lian Delos Reyes is the founder and CEO of Milksta in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Lian is a successful Dragon's Den participant recipient, so welcome, Lian. And Melanie Wildman, founder and CEO of Nutracelle in Prince Edward Island. Melanie's had numerous accolades for her product line and cookbooks as well. So welcome to you all, and thank you for joining us. So as I said, I'm going to start and go around the room, and I will ask you to introduce yourself by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your export business or businesses. And we'll give each of you a couple of minutes each. So why don't I start with Angele?
Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with everyone today. Thank you, Rose, for the great introduction. I'm from a little place here in Cookine, New Brunswick. I actually grew up in family business, and as I was a little girl, I started working in my grandfather's store at the time here, and was always so passionate and excited to learn and see how things were kind of being done, and how and I think that's where a lot of my passion grew to become a woman entrepreneur. I've also lived out west for 14 years, which I have moved with my husband and relocated back here about 3 years ago in New Brunswick. One of my company that I do, as Rose had said, is I have a business consulting company. So we actually help brands launch their product into the marketplace. So that means we help them in all aspects of their business, from the brand development, the pricing strategy, to market research, importation, exportation. That's where I saw a lot of opportunities and a lot of interest to start creating a lot of our own brands. So we have created some brands from food to beauty products, all into the natural organic sector. We've kind of been known in Canada to help lead this sector here in this market. So one of the brands that we've created that I'll share a little bit and just touch a little bit on is called Inca Glow. Inca Glow is a product we started from scratch, and we have it manufactured, and it's an organic hair smoothing product. So me and my partner are leading the professional beauty sector with an organic hair smoothing product. It wasn't something that you could hear a lot about, because a lot of the products that we compete with have a lot of chemical products, especially in the professional beauty sector. There's not a lot of this kind of products. So we have created this product range, and we're now starting to, we export into US, and we sell into Asia, Australia, and the European market right now today. So yeah, so that's a little bit about, just to give you a little synopsis. I know I want to give the chance for everyone to speak. So just wanted to share a little bit more about that with you guys today.
Thank you, Angele. Caitlin.
Hi there. My story is a bit like Angele's. Actually, I grew up in a family business. My parents actually own both of our businesses, and I run both of them for them. We have Parlee Manufacturing Company. So we manufacture all of the medical and rescue equipment for all the Nova Scotia ambulances, air ambulances, and we've been spreading across Canada, and we're actually amping up our exporting for a lot of those products. And we have Liverpool Adventure Outfitters, which is an adventure outfitting company. And we've expanded to Costa Rica and Belize to fill in our winter months here in Nova Scotia when there's not much opportunity to adventure. So I guess we're kind of exporting our touring business to other countries now as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Caitlin. We'll get into a little bit more of that and how you did that. Lian.
Hi, I'm Lian. So I'm in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. And I created like Milksta. Actually, it came from scratch, but just like Angele and Caitlin, my background is also probably coming from my parents. So I was originally from the Philippines. My mother is a dietitian, and she's been involved in many food businesses there, while my father is doing trading, like export, import of like engineering materials in the Philippines as well. So, but then my entrepreneurial journey actually started when I moved out of my country. That was like over 10 years ago. I went to Singapore to work for a British health and food brand. So I was doing sales for this specific company, and we were selling more than 2,000 SKUs of different products from all over the world. And that's when this sparked, the interest sparked. It's like, I could still remember the time that when chia seeds was like sort of new in Asia. So I was the one, like, I studied everything about chia seeds. I was trying to sell cases of them. And that's when I thought, like, okay, so this specific product came from, from the Aztecs, from the Mayans. And right now, this like the Asian people are like, trying to buy hoard all of them, like drinking them. So that's when I thought of like, maybe one day I'd be able to think of a product that I can like, like create as well and sell, maybe like in the future. So fast forward to from Singapore, we moved to St. John's. And my husband is like always away, and I was just always on the computer, internet, researching stuff. And I started exploring drop shipping, e-commerce, and learning about different online marketplaces in Asia and America. And that's when I created like Milksta. So Milksta, just to give a quick background, it's decaf and vegan lactation and postpartum lattes. I would say, I would think that it's an underserved market, the breastfeeding community. And it's sort of like starting to grow. It's kind of like big in Asia, but when I came to North America, I've seen that there's actually, there's potential for growth and expansion. And we did like good success in the US space. So right now, Milksta is available in US, UK, Australia, Singapore, and of course, the Philippines.
Wow, thank you, Anne. Melanie.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you. And really excited to be with all these amazing female entrepreneurs. I'm going to be learning tons from all you guys. I started Nutracelle. I have three children, and 2 have life-threatening nut allergies. So when we like most families, you're not prepared for it, and all of a sudden you're in a merge, and I'm holding my little son in my arms, and he had completely stopped breathing, and we thought we were going to lose him. And when we got home, then of course you're having to throw everything out in your house that's made with peanuts, and figuring out how do I feed my family, what's safe, what isn't safe. And my husband is a bodybuilder, and I am a previous bariatric patient, and so we both need to take protein, and we couldn't find a protein that wasn't processed with nuts that was safe to have in our home. So it took about 3 years of R&D and finding a manufacturer to take a risk on me and believe in me. And we sold our first product in 2016. And since then, we've expanded into other vegan and sugar-free products. So we also make a completely vegan and sugar-free gummy multivitamin for children as well as for moms. And we sold our very first product actually in January of 2016, and one of our first customers was in the United States and bought it online. So I guess we kind of jumped out of the door, exporting right off the beginning. But now our vitamin line is, we're in the top 30 of all multivitamins sold on Amazon in the United States. So I'm really excited just to chat and to encourage other women. When you're thinking about your business, don't just think about the closest local geographic area, but really think about who your market is and who can use your product. And for us, about 90% of our sales are in the United States.
Wow. Interesting. Thanks, Melanie. And just not that we set it up this way, but it's interesting to note that all of the companies that we have here today as part of the panel are in that natural health wellness space. So that's really interesting. And I know that it's definitely an industry that is kind of exploding, is in particular with women entrepreneurs. So I know some of you talked about, in particular, Melanie, about how and why maybe you got into exporting, and maybe I will go back to a few others. Caitlin, kind of, was that a natural progression, with the type of companies you had? How did you get into that export market? When was the first sale kind of thing?
Probably before I was heavily involved, but Parlee manufacturing started in 1985, so the year before I was born, and it was always kind of local products, some adventure gear and sort of a mix. And once we started focusing more on the medical industry, other places saw that we offered a more quality product. It wasn't necessarily a mass produced, cheaply made product. It's a product that lasts and holds up. So a lot of ours happened through, so say, for example, a lot of it happens through Lifelight. If they're doing calls in other provinces or other areas when they're transporting patients, other air ambulance services will see our product. And that's mainly how our manufacturing started moving to other places. For our tours, it was mainly to fill a gap in our adventure company in the winter, because we do tons of kayaking and paddleboarding and all this fun stuff in the summer here and have a great season. And then there was a lull for a lot of our guides through the winter. So we wanted to be able to offer something that could keep people employed, but also keep our revenue stream going through the winter months as well. So we started exploring some other areas and used local guides there. And it kind of was natural progression for us. Yes.
Right. So I know some of you have talked about some of the markets that you're into or where you're exporting. Maybe I want to talk a little bit about, perhaps some of the challenges or barriers, if that is the case, that you've experienced in exporting internationally. And maybe if you could just start, and I'll start with you, Angele, to give us a sense of the range of opportunities that may be out there as far as different markets, but maybe you could talk about where you're exporting currently and maybe some of the challenges that you've experienced. Angele, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so for us, like, we are exporting into the United States. We do some business into primarily Hong Kong right now, into the European market and in Australia. And a lot of the challenges that I would say for us that we had encountered is the time difference is a big one, because a lot of time when I'm sleeping, they're awake, or when they're awake, I'm sleeping. So it was trying to figure out a balance that I can actually communicate with them, still function in my day-to-day, the next day here in Canada, right, in what we're doing, and also be a support to them to make sure that our business relation and the material and the communication keeps moving in the right direction. So that's been a big one. Another one that I would say also for me is the culture is a very big thing. And it was a big learning curve, because sometimes how we communicate or say something may not be perceived the same way for them. And their culture is very different. Like, for example, in Asia, I went to an exhibit, to a trade show, was welcomed by some of my distributors, and for them it's very about the relationship and understanding, even knowing your family, like my daughter, and that connection goes so far. And so that I kind of learned a lot about that, like the whining and dining and the really learning and spending time with us, also visiting. So just to understand that, I found was initially a little bit of a challenge. It was also very fun learning, but something definitely to consider and be aware of for sure.
Excellent. Thank you. Lian, how about you?
So in terms of barrier, because, I don't really have connections in the North America, I would say, because it's only recent that I've really been here. But I noticed initially when I was trying to reach out to people, I know it's a bold move, just cold emailing, sometimes even calling. People won't really respond to you. Send 50 emails, only 1 or 2 will get back, or even, respond to your email. But at the same time, it's a practice that I've been doing recently, and I've seen success because that's how I got into UK, got a UK distributor. And connections. I think Angele touched on a bit of even the family connections. I even explored that. I was able to get an Australian distributor through a family, a family acquaintance. So that's one thing that's I've seen. And another barrier is like customs regulations like really vary a lot. It's like, in the beginning, because it's a very lean team, like small team, I don't really have like much like capital to pay people. So I try to read a lot, like research on Google, like do all these things. And you would read like 30 pages of like web documents and I wouldn't get anything. So that's when I decided I don't want to waste more time. Waste more time. I just got a customs broker to do all the work for me, because sometimes there is like, a shortcut to everything. And even though it would cost you money, it would actually save you more time to focus more on the things that you can actually handle. Like for me, like really doing sales and social media. So as a lesson learned, I stopped like doing my personal research on things like customs regulations, food and regulatory compliance. So I have like consultants in the US and in Canada when it comes to everything like regulatory policies, especially when you're dealing with the FDA and CFI.
Right. Melanie, how about you? Some of the challenges and maybe barriers. I know you said that you got started right out the gate with your first sale in the US, but any challenges, barriers in particular that you might want to share?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest barriers for female entrepreneurs and in Canada, and this is true for North America, but I think the numbers for last year were a little over 2% of all of the startup funding went to companies with a female founder. So, if you ask the average person on the street, well, how much funding goes to female entrepreneurs, you're probably going to get an answer between 20 and 50%, depending on who you're talking to. And people are blown away when they find out just how little funding there is available for female entrepreneurs. And it's very limiting. When especially when you're exporting, you have to have a certain ideally a certain volume to be able to start penetrating the market that you're in. And you're looking at, as Lian was just saying, you're needing to do brokerage and regulatory and shipping and warehousing and distribution. And that gets complicated, but you also need to have enough product and enough in your consistency in your supply chain to be able to, it's one thing to get the market, but you have to be able to continue to service that market. And that takes funding. And I think, while it's been fantastic that we're seeing the numbers of women double in the numbers that are exporting, we're not seeing the funding for female entrepreneurs double. And a lot of businesses, I think, are really hampered by just not having access to that capital, or the capital that they have access to a lot of times has strings attached to it. So they can't use it, for example, in areas that they really need support, like, being, just operating, right? Or the ability to use it for inventory purposes. So, sometimes you might be able to get it for machinery or for equipment, but, that might not be the effective use of those resources for female entrepreneurs. So I know I'm on a bit of a soapbox, because it infuriates me that when you look at the VC groups and the way funding works, so much of it is who you know. And women's business circles tend to be about 30 times smaller than the average male founders circle. So when you think about, the contacts that you've been able to have that have helped you to grow, women basically come right out of the gate. Women and visible minorities come out of the gate with a deficit in the marketplace. And I think that's something that on both on a government level and on, private level, we need to address. And one way of it is just to be out and have people see us. Oh my goodness, there's these women that exist that are creating jobs here in Canada and, adding to our GDP, and having other women see us as an example and see us as something that they can go far beyond, not, oh, gee, wish I could be the next Nutracelle, but, oh, gee, I wish I want to grow a company that's going to be 10 times bigger than that and, get acquired or something. So I think for me, that's the biggest obstacle.
Thank you for sharing that. And here. So we're working to change that, and you know, slow but sure, but I agree. But that's why you know, offering opportunities like this for other women entrepreneurs to hear some of you that are doing exactly, you know, what perhaps they hope to do, or will be doing or working on, is so very important. So providing some of these platforms is really important. So need more of them. So thank you. Caitlin, so some particular challenges, barriers that you or your businesses have come across over the last number of years?
Well, I agree with Melanie about funding. We haven't had many challenges outside that. I would say shipping is our biggest, shipping and customs and that sort of thing. And like Lian said, to delegate when you can, to find somebody else to pay to do those things is very helpful.
On that note too, and I'll throw this out to all of you, but maybe each of you can respond to this, is so I'm interested to know, and probably others too, do you have people on the ground in particular areas where you are exporting? Or, you know, I know that costs a lot of money probably too, and I know, you know, customs and that kind of thing, but do you have somebody, a distributor on the ground in these countries where you're distributing your products? Anyone jump in?
Yeah, so Angele here. For us, we do have distributors everywhere. Like in the United States, we have a lot of distributors, probably about 7 of them that work with us, depending on the regions that we're selling into. In Asia, I actually have an agent because of the communication, and they help us with the translations and take care of all of that. So that was really important to us. And in Europe, we have a master distributor that imports everything from us in containers, and then they sell to the many distributors that are buying our products there. And in Australia, we ship directly to distributor. So for us, we do use a mix of agent and distributors, depending on where we're selling to.
Okay. Anyone else have experience? I'm assuming you all use, you know, distributors in each of your countries, but I was just wondering, you know, and another good question is, how did you find those? And maybe that kind of leads into my next question, is, and I'll go through each of you to ask you this. So what supports, help that you received in furthering your export business? So what supports and help, maybe from, you know, whatever, you know, funders, community organizations, whatever it is, in helping you with your business. And I'll go back to you, Angele, and go through each of you for that.
Yeah, so for us, we have received a lot of support. Like for me, when I kind of got started, I went to a trade show, and that's where I started initiating a lot of you know, like contacts to help. But I've also received a lot of support from local government agencies. I've been a part of a lot of export mission, and that's been super beneficial for us because they kind of organize a lot of the meetings and connect you with some buyers that are really kind of a good match for you and your company. So that's been a really big support. I mean, Women in Business New Brunswick, I have to say here, for me locally, they're amazing. And they always, you know, will be a major great resource to help connect and put the right connections to help give that support. I found for us also trade commissioners. We've that's been a really big asset. We've connected with the local Canadian trade commissioners in the different countries. They helped us validate the buyers that we're doing business with to make sure that they are known, they're recognized. It's not just someone you're finding off the internet kind of buyer. And they're also helping make those connections as well. So for us, like that kind of support has been a really big asset to what we're doing today, for sure.
Thanks, Angele. Caitlin, any supports?
Yeah, I would say our biggest support has been Nova Scotia Business Inc. Actually, they have a program. It's called Scotians, and it's people who are from Nova Scotia or who have spent significant time in Nova Scotia who are living or operate businesses elsewhere, and they're willing to kind of mentor and speak with people who have businesses in Nova Scotia about exporting in their specific areas of expertise. And Tourism Nova Scotia has been helpful with our tourism company. And we, what we did actually with there, we just kind of went to kind of scope out the places and met tour operators in those areas that we've partnered with. And they're great at, especially with the COVID situation, letting us know what's going on there and if it's safe to travel. And we have lots of people on the ground that we partner with in Costa Rica and Belize that we can kind of keep in touch and find out what's going on with that market at the time. So, yeah.
Right, because that would have created another whole host of
yeah.
challenges.
Hopefully up and running normal by next year, right?
Fingers crossed. All right, Lian, can you?
In terms of support, of course, Genesis Center here in Newfoundland has been like fundamental in building the business from scratch, from zero, like no knowledge in starting a business in a foreign country for me. And, as an immigrant, they really do have like nice programs also for women and, immigrants like me, newcomers in the country. And I've actually learned about Genesis through Enlo, of course. Like I know like a few people in Enlo, and they were the one like go to Enlo, and they connected me to someone in Genesis Center in terms of like startup help. So I think it was 2 weeks ago when Learn Sphere, I just like we held like supply chain 1, 2, 3 classes, and it's like godsend. Like a lot of things that I've learned. I've been through in the business, but there's still many things that I still need to learn. And joining the trainings which is actually funded by the Canadian government is very, very helpful. And the Newfoundland Labrador actually government is very helpful as well. Like we do have like officers in the government that's been sending me emails of like updates, like what's happening around market, like trade opportunities, trade commissioner, of course. And for food and beverage related companies, Food and Beverage Atlantic, like FBA, I recently just joined them, and the help has been really, really super helpful. And I think this is one thing. The last thing that I really wanted to share, I'm not sure if anyone have a good experience with it, but Facebook can sometimes be an enemy because it's a distraction. But when I was starting Milksta, I joined every single Facebook communities of entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs. Like in my case, I actually sold out the first batch through Facebook groups, like just putting out the product out there, and most of them are like in the US as well, so they're just buying there. And one of the people who's distributing our products from outside country is I met through Facebook. So wow. And it's the nice thing with it's very targeted. Like most Facebook groups, they are very niche specific. So you just look for the Facebook groups that are kind of like specific to your market and start networking from there.
Excellent. Thank you. Melanie, do you want to share any specific supports, help that you received?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what everyone else is saying. Being able to connect with other female entrepreneurs and network through things like the PEI Business Women's Association or the ones in your province is a really great first step. For me, Export Development Canada has been really great, especially in helping even things like ensuring shipments and those sorts of things. Emergence and innovation in Prince Edward Island have been really important to us, and we work really closely as well with the Biofood Tech Corporation in helping with some of our food development, as well as Canada's Smartest Kitchen through Holland College. So those have just been, I mean, you can't even put a dollar value on it for us. I'm sure my finance kind of good, but And then reiterating, you know, programs like LearnSphere that can help with some of the marketing and understanding it. We're a little different because we're direct to consumer. So we do work with, you know, warehousing and distribution, but we control that and it's direct to our consumers. And we use Shopify as our main store platform, as well as we're an Amazon seller on Amazon.
Right.
So those have their own unique challenges, you know, as opposed to, you know, working with a distributor or broker for selling your products, which we've been approached very frequently by retailers, brokers, and distributors. And we've made the internal decision not to go down that path yet. And I think it's really important for you to understand your market and understand the path that you want to get there, because there's lots of different ways, and it's not always right for each company which way to go. And one thing I would say that I've experienced is to be no one solution is going to be the solution that gets you there. So, you know, it's really easy sometimes to say, you know, have a conversation with a broker and they're going to tell you, oh, you're going to get into the store and the store and the store, and we've got accounts here and here and here, and this is how much you'll move. You know, though, to always look at the options that you have and what is best for you and your company.
Excellent. Thank you, Melanie. And yeah, a few, I think all of you have mentioned between EDC, Export Development Canada, ISED, which is the Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, as well as our trade commissioners. And we, you know, there are trade commissioners in every country. So lists of those, you can, you know, reach out to your local in your province and get a list of those trade commissioners in different countries, and as well as some of our, you know, financial agencies and major banks as well can help with in that department and exporting too. So, and I'll ask Denise if she hasn't already to put it in the chat. I know each of you had mentioned each of our organizations as well as maybe a starting point. If there's any of these information, contacts, that kind of thing, feel free to reach out to our organizations, and Denise can put those contacts for each of us in the chat room as well. I have.
Can I just, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Melanie.
One thing that I forgot to add is how important that networking is. One of the groups that I'm involved with is the McCain Institute through the Entrepreneur Leadership Program, the ELP program. If there's one program that's transformational in helping you navigate as an entrepreneur, it's great because it's a peer group. And so you're peered with other entrepreneurs and you meet on a regular basis. And you know, it's invaluable to get, just like we're doing here, we're sharing knowledge. And if you're an entrepreneur, then you've got some road rash, you've had a few spills along the way. So it's so important to have a group around you that can really understand how, you know, how much responsibility we have, because we're responsible for our customers, we're responsible to our families, we're responsible to our employees, and we're responsible to any stakeholders that we have. And you know, we're standing there holding the weight of the world on our shoulders. So sometimes it's nice to have one to cry on.
You're here. It's a good thing we're all we're good at multitasking for sure. Thanks, Melanie. I am just going to, I have a few more questions, but I'm going to be, so I don't lose you. I have Mel in our chat here saying, wow, this conversation is so inspiring. Now she's asking, would anyone have any suggestion for distributor or broker? I'm guessing that depends on what your product is. So Mel, maybe you could put a little bit more information in the chat there, or direct it to one of our panelists specifically, and we'll see if we can answer that question for you. So And Mel is also asking, would you mind putting the information for the McCain's group for networking? If you have it there, Melanie. If not, I can ask one of my colleagues, Isabel or Denise, to do that in the chat as well. Another question that I had when it comes back to, in particular, women business owners, you know, maybe some of the opportunity and trends that you're seeing as business operators for women business owners wanting to export internationally. And maybe this has changed over the past couple of years, but maybe if I could start with you, Angele, and if you could give us your perspective on that, what you've seen or what you are seeing.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I've seen there's been a shift, especially, you know, with women, female founders and women-led enterprise. It's there's a big shift in the market I've seen, especially in the last 5 years, even more than ever. You know, for example, with Abundant by Design, because we do a lot of business consulting, a lot of brands that I work with are female-owned and female-led, which is very exciting to always, you know, kind of connect with other women entrepreneurs as well. And a big thing that a lot of companies are doing, especially in the United States, and I see it's starting here in Canada, is they're getting a certification, like a woman-owned certified business, and it's becoming a feature in the presentation. So when you're presenting to a buyer or a distributor, it's very more kind of open and well received, and people like that, and it's almost becoming like not a sales pitch, but a sales kind of highlight into when you're presenting your company and your product. So women-owned and women-led business is just on a trend. Like, it's something that we need to see more, is being respected, and people are looking more. There's actually programs with certain buyers or chains, or, you know, people you do business with, in even when you're a woman-led business, you may get a subsidy on your listing fees to do business with them, or you may get some like a discount or rebate kind of applied because you're a woman-owned business. So so I would say it's, you know, it's time for women to shine and step up, to support, help each other, inspire each other, and be a voice, you know, and really kind of step up as women entrepreneur. I think now's the time for sure.
Excellent. Thanks, Angele. Caitlin, what are your thoughts on this?
Much like Angele, and I'll kind of flip to the tour side of our business. Women love women-led tours. So if they're coming in a group to learn how to do kayaking, or we do a lot of teen girls who wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to take part in some of tours that are paid, that are partially funded by our municipality here. Those girls love having a female instructor, and they feel much more comfortable interacting with a female instructor if they're female as well, or identify as female. So I think that's been a huge shift lately for us. Is, I mean, like I spend a lot of time on the water in the summer because I get requested a lot to lead female groups because I'm female.
Right. That's great. Thank you. Lian.
So in our case, so our market is actually mostly female, like women who are breastfeeding, who just like giving birth. So of course, it's a perk that most mothers will actually want to do business or trust brands that are also women-led. And just putting it out there, you know, if you're a women-led company, we even put it in our packaging, like owned and operated by women. And of course, even our social media, we're so proud of that, like saying that founded by moms, formulated by moms. And just seeing that, like many customers are actually like messaging us and they feel comfortable. We do have like people messaging us just saying that, thank you for doing this for moms, and being just part of a community like of mothers as well. It's very, very helpful in growing the business, because like sometimes you don't really do spend so much money on advertising. We've learned that, like just connecting with like female influencers, like women influencers, we've received more better ROI than actually spending on Facebook ads that may be like, sometimes they are like glitchy targeting. They're probably not even targeting the people that we wanted to reach. But the influencer marketing in terms of like women specifically, I could, you know, I don't, it's such a it's such a gold mine as well. So if you are targeting women, the reach of the female, even the micro influencers, the engagement that they provide, it's very, very helpful to our business.
Excellent. Thank you, Lian. Melanie.
Yeah, I think there's been some really great conversation on this. For me and our company, we have a pretty large social media presence as well. And in terms of, you know, putting yourself out there as a female entrepreneur, there's the connection with your customers, but there's also the connection with other female entrepreneurs. And I think the more visible we are, the more we normalize women as leaders and women in business. And that has a secondary effect of increasing the amount of risk that, you know, VCs and funding, different types of funding vehicles that are more likely to look at funding other female entrepreneurs because they're seeing and they're more familiar with it. So the more we're out there, the better it is for all women.
Excellent. Thank you. And would most of you say that, you know, social media is a place where you are spending a lot of time in marketing your businesses, and the connect between exporting, is that of ultra importance in your marketing sales strategy? I'll throw it out to whoever wants to answer that.
I can answer that question. I would, from my perspective, I would say that, yeah, it's very important, for sure, more than ever. Like, you know, I do spend quite a bit of time onto social media and marketing. It's like they say, you can have the best product, but if people don't know about it, they're not going to buy your product. So the marketing is such a critical part, and the social media kind of goes hand in hand with that. And depending on the country you do business with too, there's ways to really activate your product to be known. For example, let's say I'm selling to Asia and I want to create marketing, but marketing can be very expensive too. So you got to be careful, because you don't want to start spending all this money and you're in Asia and you know, you're not too sure how much it will kind of bring back, you know. So what I've been doing is, like, I've been targeting a lot of the Asian market here into Canada, and what they call in Asia is brand activation. So I'm creating major marketing by just targeting their market here, because they buy, they tell their friends, they bring back to their country. And so when I'm now selling into Asia, my product is being known or recognized, or is being seen somewhere. So that's just an idea of how you can influence marketing online or into your local market as well, to create a ripple effect of that for your business.
Excellent. Thanks, Angele.
One thing that I would say, and Lian touched on it when she was talking about joining the moms, you know, all the moms and the mom entrepreneur groups on Facebook, is to really, really understand your market. And when you're spending money on social media, there's spending money, and then there's engagement that you can get where you're not actually spending, where you're still spending money because you're creating content that you're putting on there, but where you're not actually paying for paid ad dollars. But the one thing that I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs really struggle with is, you love your product and you think everyone should love your product. And my one piece of advice is, if everyone is your market, you don't have a market. So unless you have the marketing budget of a Pepsi-Cola or a Coca-Cola, the more you can drill down and the smaller you can make your market segment, the more successful your marketing dollars will be. So unless you have a huge war chest of cash, my advice is to get right down to who really is your very best customer. And that's the only person that you're targeting. You want to really understand who's buying and using your products, because you can burn through an awful lot of cash really, really fast by trying to reach everyone.
Because that probably goes a little bit against most of our instincts, is to, you want to get your product or service in front of, just throw it out there, throwing it against, so everybody must see this kind of thing. But by, obviously that will, help you in defining your marketing and your branding and even perhaps your product line. So that's really smart advice, Melanie. Any questions that anyone, I'm monitoring the chat here, and in the Q&A section, if anyone has any particular questions that you want to ask of either an individual, or if you want to open it up to whoever wants to answer it, please put it in the Q&A or chat area there. And or you could raise your hand and we'll bring them to our guests here today. I did put all of your URLs in the chat there too, if anybody wants to check out your websites, by all means. One thing that I wanted to ask each of you, and I know you've given a lot of those recommendations throughout our conversation here, is I wanted to see if any of you had any particular advice or recommendations, if it's a business that has been operating, however, has not been in that area of exporting, or maybe they have, and maybe they're wanting to expand upon that. They could be, exporting across the country for right now, but they've not tapped into other markets. If there is anything in particular that you would think would be of use, if you could give us a little bit of sense of that. And I'll start with Angele on that one.
So for me, what I would say as recommendation when you're starting to look at exporting is when you're selecting the country that you're going to start doing business with, is to really understand who your competitors are, who your customers are, what their pricing is, so that once you look at your product and your pricing, that it's going to be aligned and competitive in that market, and there's actually a demand into that market. So that can really help you refine what is going to be your primary export market that you're going to start doing business with, and making sure that your product price won't be like a $10 or $20 difference into that market compared to your competitors, and that market will kind of be able to be receiving your product very well. And another thing that will help you with that is to really understand, is there duty taxes? Are there taxes into that I have to consider? What am I looking at for transportation charges, to make sure that at the end, all of that is considered. And that way will help eliminate a lot of potential surprises that may throw your product a little bit off into that market to succeed. And so, yeah, and then also the regulatory is very important, because every country has their own rules and regulatory. So to check on your ingredients and your particular product, is there laws or regulations that you should be aware, because it may need adjustment on your product, if so, for that particular market. So that would be the main things I would say to look at and consider. And what we've been doing that's kind of been very helpful and help eliminate a lot of kind of hard learning experiences for us.
And is the regulatory something as well, Angele, that your business, your consultancy business deals with, that can help small SMEs in this area?
Yes,
Okay.
we do a lot of that. We help with, especially while here in Canada, United States, European market. And yeah, depending on the category and the products, for us, we have a lot of expertise in beauty or food product, natural product, supplements, and kind of have an understanding of that for sure.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, Caitlin, any wonderful advice or recommendations before we let everyone go today? That
I just think it's kind of repetitive, but reach out to your women in business groups and business groups in your area and ask questions. Like, don't be afraid to ask questions and delegate, because you'll find a whole lot more helpful people if you reach out and ask.
Thanks, Caitlin. Lian, any specific advice you want to pass along?
So I think Melanie mentioned a bit about that they're selling on Amazon. I do have a love and hate relationship with Amazon because sometimes they're very difficult to deal with. But like, for example, in the US, researching on Amazon itself, even the keywords, it's an entirely different thing. So even creating the listing, for example, the keywords that people search on Amazon in the US is different from there in the UK and in Singapore. So in that case, we actually hired someone just to write, copyright something for the UK market, copyright something for the Singapore market, just delegating as well. We tried it our own. Sometimes the language is very different. The way they communicate is very different. So we try to get people who are really specializing in that. But I have to say, right, working and dealing with Amazon, I really learned a lot. And you can actually find lots of like gold mine there, even with like ideas in, I do a lot of competitor research on Amazon as well, ideas on how to, to improve your product, because Amazon has like, they have the most notorious reviewers, the people reviewing products. I was like researching, people are talking about this product, they are bashing it. Okay, so what can I do so that my product will not be like this? Learning about the competitors, I wouldn't say like flaws, but find an opportunity on what other competitors that your customers are actually like looking for.
Excellent. Thank you, Lian. Melanie, any last bits of recommendations or advice for women entrepreneurs online?
Yeah, I think one of the things to always remember is cash is king. And you really need to understand where your margins are, and understand, every dollar that you spend on, say, acquiring a new customer, what that's really going to cost you. Numbers that you do in a spreadsheet where you look at what your margins are may not really be what your margins are when, when it actually comes out on the wash. There's so many little things that, you don't think of when you're doing your projections. So I would say one of the most important things you can do as a founder and as an entrepreneur is to have a really strong finance person on your team. So in our case, that's not me.
It's okay, it doesn't need to be.
But you really need to have someone on your team that will say no to you. So as an entrepreneur, you have great ideas, and you have the passion, and you're convinced that you're making people's lives better with the products that you make and get into their hands. And that's an incredible feeling. But you need to have people either paid on your team or really close confidence that understand your business well, that have no fear to say, no, this is going to cost us too much, this is not a good idea, this is not the right time, those sorts of things. So you want to look to build people around you that are going to complement areas that you're not strong in.
Excellent. Thank you. Very good advice to end on, Melanie. Thank you. We are unbelievably out of time. So I know an hour goes by pretty quickly. So I want to take a moment to thank each of our panelists today: Angele, Caitlin, Lian, Melanie. I know you have busy lives, all of you. You have such great success stories and insights. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you. And I encourage anybody to go check out your websites, put those links in the chat. And just a quick reminder as well that each of our 4 business centers across Atlantic Canada are here to support you and in your entrepreneurial journey. We'd love to hear from you, having sessions like this to engage and listen to other women entrepreneurs' stories is really important and to share. So reach out anytime. Also, just to let you know, we will be hosting the next in our virtual Atlantic Women's Business Series on June 21st. So stay tuned for details of that. And thank you and have a wonderful day and stay connected. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye,
Rose. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy selling.
Yes.
Happy selling.